So we're here with our crew as normal, but guess where we are?
Our podcast studio.
All of us in one room right now.
We did it.
New
I
spot.
Who knew?
Dude, I mean, it's a long time coming, but it's like, it feels kind of like just real.
I feel a little more, I'll be honest, like relaxed because we're like at home, right? We're in my
Yeah.
home. We're at like,
I bet you that was nice. He's just like, oh, dude, I don't have to drive nowhere.
and you know how I am. I'm like an early bird. I normally show up like way earlier than I'm supposed to things. So for this, I'm like, I don't have to go anywhere. I'm just like, oh, they're in my backyard. I'll start walking over.
And what are we going to start open? I mean, you got a hat on Ricky's knee. What hat is that?
It's our sponsor today.
Oh,
One Up. This is Phoenix Resale's app, One Up. Go check it out. I think by now it should be out and available. We didn't tell Caleb we're doing this, but we will send him a little bill in the mail for $1,000 for the shout out. So thank you, Caleb, for the free sponsor.
And I've checked it out. It is a cool app. I'm on the pre-release.
Ooh.
Oh, okay, all right, fancy.
I'm doing the collecting side of it. That's what I've been looking at.
Nice.
He calls it the pre-cum. All right, go ahead.
All right, we're gonna go into our first one. I guess we're just gonna be like, hey, before you guys went to swap meets and flea markets together as friends, what made you guys want to go to them in the first place?
Yeah.
Think about it.
I can speak for Ricky and I. I mean, I don't know if it plays into it, but I will say I kind of like the idea of talking about, like, I know my mom and dad watch this, so they will watch this and see this, but they're aware. I grew up really poor, and that was just like a huge thing in my life that it really shaped everything I did. I mean, everything was, you know, what you can do in your life is, honestly, the amount of money you have is the ability of what you can do with a lot of things. So we didn't have a lot of, availability at that time to buy certain things or just get certain things the way you wanted it. You had to scavenge for it. We would go in dumpsters. We would go to swap meets, to flea markets. Thrift stores was huge for us.
Yeah.
Huge for us. Me and my brother, to this day, would go to the same Goodwill so much. And there was this one guy that worked there, and every time we'd go in there, for some reason, he would, they announce on the speaker, like, oh, answer line 2 or whatever. And he'd always say, line 2, please, line 2, please, line 2, please. To this day, you can walk up to Adam, do it, say, line 2, please, line 2, please, line 2, please. You're like, oh, how do you know about that? I will say, though, before we get deeper in the conversation, I wouldn't change the way I grew up for anything, though.
Oh, no.
I cherish the way my family raised me. I love it. Even looking back now, right? We're all, we're dad now. Like, I'm like, I love the way they raised me, that it never crossed my mind, which I think is interesting, that I never felt poor. I never, even when I went to a private school, and I'll be honest, because my dad was security there, that's how I got in. It wasn't because we had money. It was quite literally opposite. But I never felt out of place. I know most kids in the school at the time, when I'm like, I go in there without thinking. I just went to a thrift store and saw me. They're like, huh? You dirty scum. But it never crossed my mind, or I never felt less than or embarrassed or anything like that. So for me, that's kind of where I started wanting to go there. And this was before I met Ricky, which we can go into that. But
did you guys go to the swap meets and flea markets as a family together?
Yes.
You did?
With my dad, not my mom.
With your dad. Yeah. And how old were you? What's your earliest memory of being at the flea market?
Probably later elementary.
So maybe 6, 7, 8?
Probably somewhere around 8 years old or so.
Dang.
Hey.
I'm a third generation swap meter, so to me it's kind of like what you did. That's how my dad would always buy tools. So we'd be up early in the morning going to the swaps, and then Mission Viejo yard sales. My dad's always like, Mission Viejo's of gold mine. So we'd always go to the Mission Viejo. But I feel like
that's where it spawns, right? Like garage sales.
Garage sales. That's where it spawns.
Garage sales, then it turns into like a whole experience with then going to like a flea market. And then after that, you go into like a little bit more like a thrift store.
Yeah.
And then it just keeps going. Like, it's like a cycle, right?
Yeah.
But like, what was like one of your favorite memories as a kid? Like, what did you get at the swap meet that you can remember where you're like, dude, I want to come back?
Oh, dude, the cheapo race cars. So I saved up. My dad would give me like $1 every time we went to the swap meet, $1 or $2.
Bro, don't flex.
Oh.
Getting $1, dude. What?
Dude, must be nice.
I saved up so many that if I got my racetrack, it was like one of the loop-de-loop ones. I was like, dang, this is the best thing. But I look back, I'm like, that thing was like, it's like what they sell nowadays for like $5.
The Chinese bootleg. Yeah. No, okay. Yeah. That's what I would get too. The little Chinese bootleg stuff. But it's crazy because when you think back about it, it really is a weird feeling to think that you didn't comprehend in your mind like, well, this is junk though, mom and dad? It was like, yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Dude, nothing
Let's
was
go.
junk, man. Everything was great.
And you played with it forever.
Yeah.
And you played with it forever and you figured it out. Ricky, how low? I want to know where Chris is at too. I have a feeling Chris grew up with mid-range wealth. But first,
820 credit score already.
Mid-low.
mid-low. There we go. Ricky, I know we've been friends forever, but how, like, on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being the most poor, like, what level of poor do you think you actually were growing up?
Like United States poor, you mean?
Yeah, where we are poor.
I'd say like a 3, because so here's
So
the
you
thing.
weren't that poor.
No, well, okay, here.
10 is really poor. 1's not very poor.
I see.
So you're saying more like a 7.
Yeah, more like a 7.
Okay.
8, because at my house, like it was like all my uncles. I have like 6 uncles. So it was my 6 uncles, my mom.
Of course you do.
I couldn't hold it back.
So 6 uncles, my mom,
Yeah.
my aunt, and then we'd rent out some of dude, we only had a 4-bedroom, but we'd rent out some of the rooms to like, I don't even know who these people were, but I guess they'd help pay for the rent. So it's like, that's how we had enough to make it through. And
That's when you know you're poor.
Hey.
I don't know who these people are living at my house.
I'll tell you this, like there'd be times when there was no food. So I legit, we had a ton of fruit in the backyard.
Yeah.
So I'd get the loquats and I'd just be like, oh, this is the best meal ever. I'd start eating fruit. And that was
one of the funniest things too. Like just this past weekend, he's over here trying to do sugar canes.
Oh yeah, he was hunting sugar canes.
We had sugar canes
And
in the
then
backyard.
And then he walks out with pomegranates.
Ricky,
I had pomegranates too.
Ricky does love loquats. That's something when I started to meet him, he'd always be in his backyard like, I got loquats, bro. I'm like,
I don't even know what those are.
It's
I always just call
what is it?
kumquats.
It's a fruit.
Yeah, it's a fruit. You see them around the neighborhood. They're like yellow. They're kind of shaped like a teardrop. They're really sweet, and they have like 3 seeds in them every single time.
I've ever had
I need to
one
know,
of those.
Chris. What was your? Were you? What were you?
Middle is middle gets.
Okay.
Like just a suburb of like Hartford, Connecticut.
Suburb.
Suburb.
Hey.
Yeah.
Hey, that pizza fire over there.
Wait, you were in an apartment, bro? You were not poor.
No, we grew up in like middle class, houses, not rich by any means.
Yeah.
But my dad did pretty well.
Okay.
I actually didn't experience, like where I grew up, there was no real flea markets actually. So I don't think I really even remember going to a flea market till I was probably in college.
Wow.
There was none of that. No, the only thing I think for hunting for me when I was really little is my brother and I, he's my older brother, we used to go and explore like abandoned houses.
That's
and
rad.
we used to go in, there was a lot of, throughout the neighborhood, there'd be like an empty house and we would go in and find all sorts of like antiques and knickknacks and stuff like that.
Nice.
And we would bring those home. So that was my first experience collecting stuff. And now it's like true hunting. Now you see it like nowadays, people are doing that all over again, going out and hunting like abandoned houses and stuff.
Dude, that's the best. Oh.
Yeah, it really is the best.
We
And-
did or I don't know, did I do it with you? I would do like abandoned or like Black Star Canyon or whatever it's called and go do a lot of like the Blair Witchy type stuff. Okay.
That was you guys enjoyed it. I didn't enjoy it that much.
I love
but
that
I was
stuff.
in for the ride.
Yeah.
A little off topic from this. I was talking with Ben in the car and I was like, dude, Billy from the Game Chasers got so lucky finding that abandoned VHS store.
Oh, dude.
I was like, dude, there's got to be somewhere somebody has like a log of like where all the rental stores were.
Yep.
And like see if any of them are, pretty much still owned by a family or not,
And anybody who doesn't know, he's referring to a video from the Game Chasers.
Yeah.
Billy put out a video that he wasn't planning on doing, which is, go figure. That's freaking YouTube. That's the perfect example of how much YouTube pisses me off. You can try to make the best content you want for years. Try and try. Fail. And then Billy wasn't even trying. No, I'm saying power to him. Even he'll admit it.
Yeah, it was so
You're like,
staged.
I'm freaking filming. I might as well pull up my phone. Hey, look, there's an abandoned store. And then it has Darkwing Duck box and all this stuff. And it's like, you can't create. And that video did really well, which is
that
awesome
was
for
such
him.
an awesome video. I watched that.
I
it reminded me of my childhood when we used to do that. Where I grew up was like a lot of industrial buildings. It used to be like a lot of mill factories for like clothing.
Mill factory?
Mill.
I heard that.
There was no under that.
Exposed.
A lot of mill factories.
So that's where they make them. Huh?
No, they were like cotton factories, and they had like
One thing after
clothing.
another.
So Connecticut has a ton of them, and my brother and I used to go explore all of those. Now there's like whole YouTube channels that go around doing that. You've probably seen those that explore abandoned. Like I followed this one channel, Exploring with Josh, I think is what it's called, and he goes around the whole world now exploring these like abandoned buildings. So, anyways, that's how I got started with hunting. It was kind of just exploring houses and abandoned.
Did you ever
stuff.
have creepy stuff? Like actual creepy?
Yeah.
Like I know we've all like heard the noise and like. Ah!
I mean, one time my brother and I, we were up in like upstate New York, and we went and it was always my brother that wanted to do this. So I was like the younger brother tagging along. I was probably like 10. He's like 15. I'm like, yeah, I'll go with you. So we were like camping up there, and there was this house, and my brother's like, we got to go explore that house. So we go to this place, and it was like something out of like Texas Chainsaw Massacre. There was like all this wasted like trash and all this stuff, and it was like empty cars. And we went in the back of the house, and my brother's like, come on, we got to go in. And I was getting kind of freaked out. I was like, I don't know, this is kind of freaky. And we go in, and there was like right away there, I think there was like a piss pan, like, and like, and I'm looking at my brother, I'm like, is somebody living here? And then we go in a little further into the house, and we started hearing like this weird like organ music like playing in the house. And I remember being so freaked out and so scared. And all I was thinking was Texas Chainsaw Massacre. And I was like, Corey, we got to get out of here now. And we bolted out of there. But I was like, we're ready to get murdered. Like the door's going to close.
What house was that in Oregon?
Either there was someone actually playing music. I would say odds are someone's playing with you, because I do that kind of stuff. Like when we did the abandoned house, and my son was there. Immediately when he was by himself, I pulled up my phone, YouTube, pulled up some scary music, and just started playing it in the hallway. And he's like,
I think that this was somebody living in this house, like that was probably like 80, 90 years old, that had been there their whole life and had just like
organ player.
Yeah, I don't know.
He was waiting for the door to open.
It was freaky though, but that was scary as can be. Yeah.
Dude, that's a crazy experience, man.
It was pretty scary. Yeah.
Nice,
man. Yeah, I think one of the experiences that I had, like growing up through swap meets, was just going to the Santa Clarita racetrack, and it was just down the road from my grandparents' house. And the one thing that I remember getting all the time was cheap clothes.
Oh yeah.
Oh my gosh, I couldn't go through socks enough, and I couldn't go through fake famous Stars and Straps and DC shirts.
You were famous.
Dude.
Yes. Yeah, now I can get a look what you looked like back then.
Yeah, that, and like just finding like just old beat up toys and games. Like that's normally where my mom would buy games. Like everything was a hand-me-down, because I had two older brothers.
Yeah.
So there was no way we were affording actual good stuff. Right, I've had one experience where I've opened up an actual brand new game, and that was like an N64.
Well, what game was it?
It was. I remember talking about it. I think it was Super Smash Brothers, and it was the Atomic Purple N64 box. Those two things is like the only thing I actually can remember opening. Other than that, like somehow we had a PlayStation in my brother's room in one of them. Yeah. My brother had a VHS with like the wood trim TV, and then I had like a cruddy little CRTV in my room. But it was like, I would play in my room all moments that I could. So if my brothers weren't there, I was like, you know what, whatever, it's cool. But I think just being at like the swap meets, that kind of just invigorated why I love the hunt.
Absolutely.
My parents just let me run around. They're like, here you go, go. Yep. And then when I grab something, come back with a little snapper.
Hide and seek and never come back.
You remember
the little snappers,
those little poppers, man? Yeah. I would buy the crud out of those, man.
So you guys all grew up here, and you were in Southern California as well.
Yeah, just north. I grew up in the Mojave Desert.
Like, how many flea markets were there back then compared to now?
A good amount.
A lot. There was a lot. There was more drive-ins. That's where they all
more
were
back then. You would say, even than now, more.
Yeah, because a lot of them got like commercialized, like the areas, so they built in it or put more restrictions, like an open fairgrounds type of thing. Like, well, hey, that's not going to be allowed anymore. I remember they were almost going to shut down some of them permanently after COVID. And that was like the most mad I've ever been in my life.
And some did shut down, because they were saying they were going to shut down my childhood, which was the Santa Clarita one. I was like, no.
But they didn't, correct?
I don't think they did. I think it's still going.
No, Gabo goes there.
But the other one I went to was Four Corners. I don't know if you've ever been to that one.
Heard of it.
That one's kind of just north of Lancaster, and it's like, or just east of it. And that was another one that I would go to.
Was there a lot where you lived?
There was one. There was one at the drive-in that is still there. That's been there for a long time. But as a kid, we never went to that one. I go to it now when I go back to Connecticut. I will go to that one. It's a really good one. But there's only two.
Good, though.
Yeah, there's only two in all of Connecticut. Two flea markets in all of Connecticut. That is it.
That's crazy.
That's it. Yeah, in the whole state.
And how do you guys have the best pizza?
That we have.
Are you a deep dish or a thin crust?
Thin crust.
Thin crust. Oh my gosh, thin crust.
Medium.
Okay.
I'll take any pizza, but I mean, I prefer Connecticut's pizza.
Pineapple or no pineapple?
No pineapple.
Connecticut's pizza
Disgusting.
beats
I actually
everything.
don't hate it. What, Ben? You got a problem with that?
No pineapple.
Ben just looked over angry.
He's a Chicago
Thank
guy.
you, Ben.
So-
Oh, he's a Chicago.
Come on.
He's the guy who says council. I'm playing council.